The planet Terria looked like something pulled from a dream. Its endless forests glowed with soft blue light after sunset. Silver rivers wound across the landscape, producing haunting melodies whenever the wind brushed their surface. Above it all stretched a violet sky, illuminated by twin suns that painted the horizon in liquid gold. To outsiders, it was beautiful. To the Terrian people, it was sacred. For thousands of years, the Terrians had ruled their world without challenge. They were towering feline warriors covered in thick fur, stronger and faster than most known species. Their clans respected only strength, courage, and honor. No foreign civilization had ever been allowed to walk freely upon their soil. Until today. The arrival began with a streak of fire across the sky. Children pointed upward. Hunters stopped their patrols. Warriors reached for their weapons. A silver spacecraft emerged from the clouds and descended toward the Great Plains, its engines shaking the ground like distant thunder. The humans had arrived. Hundreds of Terrians gathered to witness the landing. The ship settled onto the grass with a hiss of steam and glowing exhaust. Then the hatch opened. Several humans stepped onto the surface wearing white exploration suits. A ripple of amusement spread through the crowd. They looked small, thin, fragile, nothing like warriors. Many Terrians exchanged smug smiles. These creatures didn't appear capable of surviving a single night in Terria's wilderness, let alone threatening its people. Among the newcomers was a man named Elias Carter. Unlike the military officers beside him, Elias carried no weapon. He wasn't a commander. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't even a soldier. He was an engineer. A man whose job was simply to build, repair, and solve problems. His brown eyes held a quiet curiosity as he studied the strange world around him. There was no fear in his expression, only fascination. As he stepped forward, something unexpected happened. The atmosphere changed. His calm confidence contrasted sharply with the nervous energy of the other visitors. He smiled politely at the assembled warriors, and somehow that simple gesture caused several Terrians to loosen their grip on their weapons. At the front of the crowd stood Captain Sarai, the most respected warrior of the Iron Fang clan. Her silver fur shimmered beneath the twin suns, and her golden eyes burned with the intensity of molten metal. Scars crossed her arms and shoulders, trophies earned from battles against predators that most species wouldn't dare face. She had survived volcanic storms. She had hunted creatures larger than armored transports. She had led her clan through wars that became legends. Strength was the language she understood. And as she looked at the human engineer standing before her, she felt only one thing: disappointment. This was humanity? This ordinary, smiling male? The tiny creature didn't look like someone who belonged on a dangerous frontier world. He looked like someone who would get lost on the way to breakfast. Yet as Sarai watched him, a strange feeling crept into her thoughts. The human wasn't acting like someone standing before an army of warriors. He wasn't intimidated. He wasn't nervous. And somehow, that made him far more interesting than she wanted to admit. Fearless and proud. But she didn't like this human. She didn't like how he looked at everything with wonder, how he smiled even when surrounded by warriors. She hissed softly as he approached their broken water system, which had been useless for weeks. The humans had offered help. The elders agreed only to watch. Sarai didn't trust them. "Stay back," she warned. Her tail flicked with irritation. Elias only smiled. "Just want to look. I promise no harm." He knelt beside the old pipes, opened his small toolbox, and began to work. His hands moved quickly. His brow creased in focus. Sarai watched him closely, ready to strike if he made a wrong move. But what she saw instead was care he didn't rush. He didn't act proud. He hummed quietly to himself as he cleaned, fixed, and adjusted every part. Within an hour, the system hissed back to life. Cool, clean water flowed again, for the first time in months. The tribe gasped. Children ran forward to touch it. Elders murmured blessings. Even Sarai couldn't hide her surprise. Elias wiped sweat from his forehead and smiled at her. "There, you won't go thirsty now." Sarai blinked, confused. "You did this for us?" He shrugged. "You needed help. I could help. That's enough reason." She tilted her head. "But why would a human care for strangers?" He looked up at the twin suns. Because no one deserves to suffer when help is possible. Something in those words made her chest feel strange. It wasn't weakness, it was warmth. She didn't understand it, and that made her angry. She turned away quickly, pretending not to care. But as she walked back to her tent, her heart beat faster than it should have. That night, Sarai couldn't sleep. She sat outside her tent, staring at the stars. The humans were strange. They were weak, soft, and yet their heart seemed stronger than steel. Elasis especially, his laughter lingered in her mind. She could still hear his voice saying, "No one deserves to suffer." For the first time in years, the warrior felt something unfamiliar: curiosity. The next morning, she found herself walking toward the human camp again, pretending she had official business. Elias was already awake, repairing another machine. He looked up and smiled brightly. "Morning, Captain," he said cheerfully. She frowned. "How do you know my rank?" He grinned. "You walk like someone who commands storms." Her ears twitched. "You are strange, human." "Thank you," he said, smiling again. And for the first time, Sarai's lips curved. Not a full smile, but close. Something had changed between them. Something neither could name yet. The warrior of Teria and the human engineer didn't know it then. But that simple act of kindness had already written the first line of a story that would shake two worlds. A story of courage, love, and the strangest miracle of all. The days on Teria grew softer after the humans arrived. The tension between the two species slowly melted like morning frost. The humans learned the rhythm of the forest, and the Terion learned that not all humans were weak or selfish among everyone. It was Elias and Sarai who seemed to be seen together the most. At first, Sarai told herself it was duty. She needed to make sure the human didn't break anything important. But deep down she knew that wasn't true. Every morning when she saw him with that bright, open smile, something strange stirred in her chest. Something she didn't want to admit. Elias was different from anyone she had ever met. He was gentle but brave, soft-spoken, but strong inside. He didn't brag about power or rank. He cared about small things: fixing a tool, helping a child, listening to the old ones talk. Sarai had seen warriors fight for glory, but never a man fight for kindness. One afternoon, she found him sitting by the river, repairing a broken drone. His sleeves were rolled up, and his skin glistened under the light of the twin suns. She stood quietly behind him, tail swaying slowly. "You work too much," she said suddenly. Elias turned and smiled. "And you watch too much." Her ears flicked in embarrassment. "I was making sure you're not damaging our land." "Of course you were," he said teasingly, his eyes shining. "Want to help me, Captain?" She frowned. "I don't know how your metal toys work." He patted the ground beside him. "Then I'll teach you." Sai hesitated for a moment, then sat next to him. Their shoulders brushed slightly, and she froze. Her fur tingled where his arm had touched her. Elias noticed, but said nothing, his hands gently guiding hers as he showed her how to connect the small wires. "Careful," he said softly. "You're stronger than you think." She looked at him, her golden eyes meeting his brown ones. "You humans are strange," she murmured. "You smile even when you struggle. You help others even when you get nothing in return." He smiled quietly. "Maybe that's what makes us human." For a long moment, they just sat there, the hum of the river filling the silence. Sarai didn't know why her heart beat so fast. She didn't understand why the air between them felt warm and heavy. All she knew was that she didn't want to move away. That night, a storm rolled over Teria. The winds howled and lightning split the sky. The human camp was damaged. Tents tore apart. Equipment scattered. Sarai and her warriors rushed to help them. In the chaos, Elias's shelter collapsed. Sarai dove through the rain, pulling him out just before it crushed him. They ran together toward a nearby cave, drenched and shivering. Inside, the cave was small and dark. The sound of rain outside was loud, almost comforting. Sarai sat near the entrance, shaking the water from her fur, while Elias tried to start a small heat pack. "You saved me," he said after a while, his voice soft. She shrugged. "You would have done the same." He laughed lightly. "You think so?" "Yes," she said simply. "You humans are foolish that way," he grinned. "I'll take that as a compliment." Lightning flashed again, lighting the cave. For a moment, Sarai looked at him properly. The curve of his jaw, the warmth in his eyes, the way he looked at her, not with fear, but with wonder. Her voice came out low. Elias, and why do you keep looking at me like that? He met her gaze. Because you're the most incredible person I've ever met. Her heart skipped. No one had ever said something like that to her. Not as a warrior, not as a leader, but as her. She looked away quickly, her tail curling around her legs. The storm raged outside, but inside, there was only silence, and the quiet rhythm of two hearts that beat just a little too fast. After some time, Elias spoke again. You know, Sarai, sometimes when people meet across worlds, it feels like fate is trying to tell them something. She glanced at him. And what is it telling you? He smiled gently. That maybe we're not as different as we think. Sarai didn't reply, but she didn't move away either. The storm continued until dawn, and in that long, endless night, something new was born between them. Not spoken, not planned, but real. When the suns finally rose, painting the forest gold, Sarai stepped out of the cave first. She turned to look at Elias and said quietly, "You are strange, human. But maybe strange is not so bad." Elias smiled, warmth in his eyes. "I'll take that as the highest honor, Captain." And as the morning light touched them both, neither of them realized that their story, their impossible, beautiful story, had just begun. The storm had passed, but something had changed between them. When Sarai and Elias returned to the camp, the air felt different, not because of the weather, but because of the quiet looks they now shared. The other warriors noticed it too. When Elias walked by, Sarai's tail would twitch slightly, and when Sarai gave orders, Elias listened more carefully than before. They didn't talk about that night in the cave, but the memory of warmth, laughter, and the closeness of their hands lingered in their hearts. For days, life returned to normal. Elias worked with the engineers, fixing communication towers and restoring power. Sarai trained her warriors, leading them through the forests like a shadow. Yet at night, both found themselves looking up at the stars, thinking of each other. One evening, Elias was working alone near the forest edge, repairing a broken scanner. The air was cool, filled with the soft glow of fireflies. He didn't hear her approach until her shadow fell over him. "You're working again?" she asked, her voice calm but teasing. He looked up and smiled. "Someone has to keep your planet running." Her ears twitched in amusement. "Our planet was fine before humans came." "Maybe," he said, "but now it has better lighting." Sarai chuckled softly, sitting beside him. "You and your little machines. You treat them like pets," Elias grinned. "Maybe I just see the beauty in things people ignore." His words were simple, but the way he said them made her heart skip. She turned her face away so he wouldn't see the warmth in her eyes. They talked for hours about small things, the stars, the forest, the strange songs of Terra's nightbirds. When Elias spoke of Earth, his voice softened with homesickness. He told her about rain that smelled like soil and oceans that never ended. "Your world sounds beautiful," Sarai said quietly. He smiled faintly. "It was, but I think I found something just as beautiful here." Sarai looked at him, her golden eyes shining in the dim light. "You talk too much, human." "Maybe," he said softly, "but only when I'm around someone worth talking to." The silence that followed was warm, not awkward. Then, without thinking, Sarai leaned closer. Elias didn't move away. Their hands brushed, and in that small touch, something deeper bloomed. Neither spoke after that. The stars above seemed to hold their breath. Weeks passed. The humans finished most of their work and prepared for departure. The tribe threw a farewell gathering, a rare moment of peace between two species. Sarai stood apart from the crowd, her heart heavy. Elias was leaving. She didn't know why it hurt so much. She had survived wars, wounds, and loss. But the simple goodbye felt harder than any battle. When Elias approached her, his usual smile was there, but his eyes were sad. "I guess this is it," he said softly. She nodded. "Yes, you will return to your world." He hesitated. "You could come with me, at least to see it." "To see Earth?" Sarai looked at him in surprise. "Leave Terra, my tribe, my home," he sighed. "Yeah, it was a foolish thought." "No," she said quietly. "Not foolish, just impossible." They stood there for a long moment. Then Elias reached into his pocket and handed her a small metallic charm, a piece of his ship's emblem. "So you don't forget me," he said. Her claws brushed his fingers as she took it. "You think I could forget a human who broke our machines, fixed our water, and annoyed me every day?" He laughed softly. Then I did my job well. She smiled, though her eyes glistened. Farewell, Elias Carter. He bowed slightly. Goodbye, Captain Sarai. The next morning, the Ulysses dawn lifted into the violet sky, leaving trails of silver smoke behind. Sarai watched until it vanished among the clouds. Days turned into weeks again. The tribe returned to their usual life, but Sarai felt different. Her body was changing. Her senses were sharper, her energy unsteady. She often woke in the middle of the night, her heart racing, a strange warmth in her chest. At first, she thought it was stress or sickness. But when she went to the village healer, the old woman looked at her with wide eyes. Sarai, the healer whispered, there is life inside you. Sarai froze. Life, you mean? The healer nodded slowly. You are with child. Sarai's tail went still. Her golden eyes widened in disbelief. That's impossible. There was only one human. And he. Her voice broke. She remembered the warmth of that stormy night. The closeness. The heartbeat beside hers. No, she whispered. It cannot be. But deep inside her, she felt it. The steady, strong pulse of a life that was both hers and not hers. Her heart trembled as she whispered to the empty night. Elias, what have we done? For days, Sarai could not sleep. The healer's words echoed in her mind, again and again. You are with child. Those 4 words felt heavier than any weapon she had ever carried. She was a warrior, not a mother. And this was something that should not even exist. When she placed her hand on her stomach, she could feel it. A faint rhythm, a heartbeat that was not her own. It was small but strong, and somehow it carried something human. She sat outside her tent every night, staring at the twin moons. The metallic charm that Elias had given her hung around her neck, catching the moonlight. Every time it glowed, her chest ached with both love and fear. Her friend Rena, another warrior, noticed the change in her. You eat less, Rena said softly one evening. You train less. Something troubles you, doesn't it? Sarai didn't answer at first. Her tail curled tightly around her legs. Rena, if something impossible happened to you, would you tell anyone? Rena frowned. Impossible how? Sarai hesitated, then whispered. I carry a life inside me, but it is not fully Terrion. Rena's eyes widened in shock. Not Terrion? What do you mean? Sarai lowered her head. The human Elias. There was silence for a long moment. Rena took a small step back. No, sir, that cannot be. It is not our way. It is not nature's way. I know, Sarai said bitterly. But it is true. The news spread faster than the wind. Within a day, the whole tribe knew. Warriors whispered behind her back. Elders frowned. Children stared with wide, frightened eyes. Some called it a curse. Others called it a sign of weakness. The council demanded she come forward and explain. That night, Sarai stood before the elders, tall, proud, but trembling inside. The chamber was filled with torches, their light flickering across her fur. The high elder, an old male with black stripes, looked at her with stern eyes. Captain Sarai of the Northern Tribe, he said, you have been accused of carrying a child, born a forbidden union. Is this true? Her throat was dry, but her voice did not shake. Yes, it is true. A gasp spread through the crowd. The elder's voice hardened. And the father is a human. She nodded once. Yes. The elder slammed his staff on the ground. This is an abomination. A mixing of bloods never meant to join. You have broken the laws of nature and the honor of your people. Sarai's eyes flashed. Honor. You speak of honor, while you let your people die of thirst until he fixed your water. You speak of purity, while humans offered peace, and we gave them only suspicion. Her voice rose with emotion. Elias was not a monster. He was kind. He saved lives. He saved our lives. But the council only murmured in anger. Kindness cannot change nature, one elder said. Whatever grows in your body is dangerous. It must be removed before it grows to harm. Sarai's blood turned to fire. She stepped forward, claws gleaming. You will not touch my child. The guards moved closer, but none dared approach her. The strength in her eyes was wild and unbreakable. You will not touch it, she repeated. The high elder narrowed his eyes. You would fight your own kind for a creature that should not exist? Sarai lifted her chin. Yes, because it is mine. The chamber fell silent. Finally, the elder turned away. Then you are no longer a captain of this tribe. You are banished until the day the creature is born. If it survives, we shall see what it is." The words hit her like a blade, but she did not bow. She turned and walked out into the night, her heart heavy but unbroken. Outside, the wind howled softly through the forest. The stars glimmered coldly above. She touched her stomach and whispered, "Do not fear, little one. I will protect you no matter what." As she walked away from her village, she felt the first small movement inside her. It was gentle, almost like a tiny kick, and for the first time since the fear began, she smiled. It wasn't a curse. It was life. It was hope. Somewhere among the stars, a human had given her something no one else ever had, a reason to believe in tomorrow. And as she disappeared into the forest, the twin moons of Teria shone above her like two silent guardians, watching a mother in the miracle she carried. Months had passed since the humans left Teria. The forest had grown quieter, but for Sarai, silence was not peace, it was loneliness. She lived away from the tribe now, deep in the glowing woods where no one came. Her days were spent gathering food, keeping her small fire alive, and feeling the life growing inside her. Sometimes, when the wind was gentle, she swore she could hear Elias's voice calling her name. Her body had changed. The once tall, proud warrior now carried new weight, her steps slower, her heart softer, but her eyes still burned with strength. She had no regrets, only questions. "Why, human?" she often whispered into the night. "Did you come into my life only to vanish?" She didn't know that far across the stars on a ship bound for a new world. Elias Carter couldn't stop thinking about her either. He had tried to move on, tried to forget the silver-furred warrior with golden eyes who haunted his dreams. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw her smile, her courage, her fire. He couldn't explain it, but something inside him told him she needed him. When communication silence from Teria lasted for months, Elias made a decision that shocked his commanders. He requested a shuttle and returned to the planet alone. Against orders, against logic, against everything. But love never cared about logic. When his shuttle entered Terria's atmosphere, the skies burned orange. He landed near the old camp, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. The area was quiet now, abandoned. He looked around and whispered, "Sarai, please be here." He wandered through the forest, following the familiar paths they had once walked together. Hours passed until finally he saw it. A faint trail of footprints, large feline ones. He followed them through the glowing vines until he reached a small clearing. There, under a shelter made of branches and leaves, sat Sarai. She looked up slowly, her golden eyes widening in shock. "Elias," she whispered, her voice trembling. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he took a slow step forward, rain dripping from his jacket. You're real," he said softly. "I wasn't sure if I'd ever see you again." Her eyes softened, but her voice carried both anger and pain. "Why did you return, human? You were safe in your world. Why come back to mine?" He smiled faintly. "Because something told me I left part of my heart here." Sarai's breath caught in her throat. She looked away quickly, but he saw the tears shining in her eyes. He stepped closer and then froze. For the first time, he noticed the curve of her belly. His eyes widened. "Sir, you're... She stood up sharply, her tail lashing. "Don't you dare say it." He blinked, confused. "Say what?" She glared at him, her voice rising. "You made me pregnant, human, with warrior kittens." Elias stared, stunned into silence. His mouth opened, then closed again. What?" Her ears flattened in frustration. "Do not act surprised. The healer said, the life inside me is strong. Too strong. They said it has your blood mixed with mine." For a long moment, he couldn't speak. Then slowly, he stepped forward, his voice soft and full of wonder. "That's impossible." "It was impossible," she said bitterly, "until you came." He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "Sarah, She flinched but didn't pull away. Her golden eyes softened, full of conflict. "I was cast out because of this," she whispered. "They said, my child is a curse, that I am cursed for loving you." Elias's throat tightened. He knelt before her, his hand trembling as he reached for hers. "Then they're wrong. You're not cursed. You're the bravest person I've ever known." She looked down at him, her lips quivering. "You still call me brave. Even now." He smiled through the tears in his eyes. especially now. The silence that followed was heavy and beautiful. The sound of the forest surrounded them. Soft rain, distant thunder, the whisper of leaves. Sarai's anger melted slowly, replaced by the warmth she had tried to forget. She looked at him again. So, what will you do now, human? Run away again? He shook his head. Not this time. I came back for you and for them. Her heart pounded as she realized what he meant. You would stay if you'll let me. For the first time in many moons, Sarai smiled, a real bright trembling smile. You truly are a strange creature, Elias Carter. He grinned, his eyes wet. You said that the first day we met. She stepped closer, and this time, when her hand touched his cheek, she didn't pull away. And I was right, she said softly. But maybe, I like strange. Elias laughed quietly, resting his forehead against hers. Then strange it is. And as the rain fell softly around them, a human and a warrior stood together, two worlds bound by something stronger than fear, stronger than law, stronger than reason, something called love. For a few days, peace returned to Sarai's heart. Elias stayed by her side, repairing her shelter, cooking food, and helping her walk when her legs felt weak. He learned to listen to the rhythm of her breathing, to understand when she was calm, and when the hidden pain returned. At night, when the glowing plants shimmered softly around them, they would talk about everything: the stars, Earth, the Ta forests, and the little lives growing inside her. Sometimes Sarai would place his hand on her stomach and whisper, "They move when you are near. Maybe they already know their father." Each time, Elias's heart would melt a little more. He had never imagined being part of something so strange and so beautiful. But peace never lasts long on Terra. One morning, the sound of drums echoed through the forest. It was deep and sharp, a warrior's call. Sarai froze, her ears twitching. "They are coming," she whispered. Elias stood, grabbing his jacket. "Who?" "My tribe," she said softly. "They must have found my scent. They come to take me back or to end what they think is shame." Fear stabbed through Elias's chest. "Then we'll run." But Sarai shook her head. "No, if I run again, they will never stop. I must face them." By midday, the warriors appeared. Tall figures with spears of glowing stone and armor, made of bone and metal. At their heads stood General Carr, the one who had once fought beside Sarai. When his eyes found her, his expression darkened. "Sarai of the Silver Claw," he said coldly. "You have broken sacred law. You carry abomination." Sarai stepped forward, her hand over her stomach. "I carry life care, not abomination. Life that chose to exist." His gaze shifted to Elias, who stood beside her, defiant. "And you, human, you should have left this world." Elias took a deep breath. "I came back for her, for them. I won't let you hurt her." Laughter rippled through the warriors, harsh and cruel. "You, a soft-fledged creature from the stars. You think you can protect her from us?" But Sarai's voice rose above the mocking tone filled with fire. "He already did once. When none of you dared to stand against the darkness beyond the sky, he fought beside me. He bled beside me. Do you not remember who saved your world?" The laughter faded. Some of the warriors looked uneasy, but Carr's anger only grew. "We will not let your shame spread through our bloodlines," he hissed. "That thing inside you must not be born." At those words, Elias stepped forward, his fists clenched. "They are not things. They are your future." Carr's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die for that future." He raised his weapon. Lightning crackled along the blade. Sarai moved faster than anyone expected, stepping in front of Elias with a growl that shook the trees. "Enough," she roared, her tail lashing, her golden eyes glowing with fury. "If you want to harm them, you go through me." The forest went silent. Even Care hesitated. "You would fight your own kin for this human?" he asked. Sarai's voice was low, but steady. "Not for him alone. For what we are together." Then, like thunder breaking the sky, the battle began. Care lunged forward, his weapon slicing through the air. Sarai met him halfway, claws flashing. The impact sent sparks flying, echoing through the trees. Elias ducked, grabbing a fallen spear, his body trembling, but ready. He had fought alien beasts and storms before, but this was different. He was fighting for his family now. "Sarai," he shouted, blocking an attack from another warrior. "I am fine," she yelled back, though her breath was heavy. "Just stay behind me." But he didn't. He moved beside her, fighting clumsily but bravely, protecting her from every side. And for a moment, Care saw something strange in the human's eyes, a fire that matched their own. When Care finally struck again, Elias took the blow on his arm, falling hard. The weapon burned his skin, but he didn't cry out. Sarai's scream tore through the forest. She leapt, her claws striking like lightning, knocking Care to the ground. "No one touches him," she roared. Her strength, fueled by rage and love, was unstoppable. The warriors hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes. They had never seen Sarai fight like this, not even during the Great War. Care lay on the ground, defeated, his weapon shattered. Sarai stood over him, breathing hard, her fur streaked with blood and rain. "Go," she commanded. "Tell the others this love will live, whether you accept it or not." The warriors slowly backed away, dragging Care with them. One by one, they vanished into the shadows of the forest. As silence returned, Sarai fell to her knees beside Elias. He was bleeding, but alive. She touched his cheek gently. "You fool," she whispered, tears falling. "Why did you protect me?" He smiled weakly. "Because that's what humans do. We protect the ones we love." She pressed her forehead to his, sobbing softly. "You are strange, Elias Carter, but I would not have you any other way." And in that moment, surrounded by the ruins of battle and the whisper of rain, a human and a warrior held each other, not as enemies, not as saviors, but as the beginning of something new. The storm had passed, but the real test was yet to come. Days passed after the battle. The forest grew calm again, the glowing trees humming softly as if they too were healing. Elias's wounds began to mend, though scars would remain, marks of love, courage, and the fight for something that never should have existed, yet somehow did. Sarai stayed by his side, caring for him. Her once fierce hands now moved gently, wrapping his bandages, brushing his hair away from his face as he rested. Sometimes when she thought he was asleep, she would whisper, "You came back when no one else would. You gave me something I never thought I'd have again. Hope." And Elias would smile, pretending to sleep because he liked hearing those words. But soon, something else began to change. Sarai's strength faded day by day. Her belly had grown heavy, and she could feel the small lives moving inside. It was almost time. One night, under the silver glow of the twin moon, Sarai woke to a deep pain that spread through her body. She gasped, clutching her stomach. Elias. He woke instantly, panic flashing across his face. "Siri, what's wrong?" Her breath came fast. "It's time," she whispered. "They are coming." The storm outside roared as Elias helped her to lie down. He had no medical tools, no knowledge of alien births, only trembling hands, and a heart filled with fear and love. She screamed once, her claws digging into the ground. He held her hand tightly. "It's okay. You can do this. I'm here." "Do not leave me," she gasped. "Never," he said. "Never again." Hours passed. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Lightning flashed through the trees. Thunder rolled, and the cries of a warrior echoed into the storm. And then silence. A soft sound broke it. A small, weak cry. Then another. Elias's eyes widened as he saw them. Tiny silver-furred creatures with faint human faces and golden feline eyes blinked up at him. They were beautiful. Sarai lay back exhausted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Are they alive?" she whispered. Elias smiled through his tears. "They're perfect, Sarai. You did it." She laughed weakly, her voice trembling. "Warrior kittens," she whispered. "Our children of two worlds." Elias carefully placed the small newborns beside her. They purred softly, curling against her warmth. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They just watched the impossible become real. When morning came, the forest was quiet again. The storm had passed, leaving behind golden light that shimmered through the leaves. The warriors returned, but not with weapons. Care stood before them once more, his expression different now. The arrogance was gone. He saw Sarai holding the small children in her arms, and for the first time, he bowed his head. "The council has seen the signs," he said softly. "The storm that spared you, the light that covered your shelter. It is said to be a blessing. The child of two worlds may be destiny." Sarai looked at Elias, who stood beside her, holding one of the tiny babies carefully in his hands. "Then you will not harm them?" she asked. Faye shook his head. No, we will watch. We will learn. Perhaps. We will change. A faint smile touched Sarai's lips. Then maybe there is hope for us all. The warriors bowed once more before leaving, their steps fading into the forest. That night, Elias sat outside the shelter, staring at the stars. Sarai joined him quietly, wrapping her tail around his arm. "Do you think they'll ever accept us?" she asked softly. He looked up at the endless sky, the stars twinkling like a promise. "They don't have to. Someday your children will show them. They'll grow strong, brave, kind like you." She smiled. "And stubborn like you," he laughed quietly. "I'll take that." They sat together in silence, their children sleeping peacefully inside. The world around them glowed gently, alive with new life. Finally, Sarai leaned her head on his shoulder. "Elias," she whispered, "do humans tell stories about miracles?" He smiled. "Sometimes, but I think this one's my favorite." Her eyes softened. "Then tell it well, human. Tell them we were not so different after all." He nodded, his voice low and steady. "I will." Years later, stories of the human and the silver-furred warriors spread across the stars. Some called them legend, some called them blasphemy. But to those who had seen the truth, the children with golden eyes and kind hearts, they were something more. They were proof that love was stronger than fear, that courage could unite even the most distant worlds, and that sometimes, against every law of nature and reason, the universe itself bent toward something greater, toward life, toward hope, toward